So we start people and people show you got heart. Now we're playing the game and we're totally scoring, learning how to make a virtual a business boring, showing up every morning, ready for the show. I'ma get ready. Cold engaging virtual meetings 2.0.
Hey there, I'm Chen. I'm the author of Engaging Virtual Meetings, and you are in this class called Engaging Virtual Meetings. So excellent. So just want to get a chance today to tell a little bit about myself before we get to introduce other people who are hanging out with us today. So let's see, now how did I get to be doing this and become the author of Engaging Virtual Meetings? Well, number one, I actually used to do team building for the last 24 years. I'm actually also an FAA drone pilot, and this is what I used to spend most of my time doing. Then, of course, in March of 2020, this thing, coronavirus. And what happened to me? I had 15 canceled programs, but luckily for me, I've been online for a long time. A few of you might remember this. This online service was one of the first graphical user interfaces for meeting online, and I calculated I've been meeting online for 35 years. In 2011, I actually wrote this book, 50 Digital Team Building Games, and I've been trying to get people for years to get online, saying we can meet, be productive, save all the travel expenses, and you could have dinner with your family at the end of the day. But everyone kept saying, well, John, that's a great idea, but here's a bunch of cash and I'll see you in Orlando, Florida. So what did I do at the end of the year last year? Well, I put up a class for free called Virtual Team Building. It's just my gift to coronavirus and trying to figure out how to deal with it. And turns out 5,000 people took that class. So my publisher, Wiley, came back and said, hey, John, do you want to write your second book? And I said, sure, let's do that. It came out in October 2020, hit the #1 Amazon hot new release. And now I spend the majority of my time speaking, producing, designing, producing, speaking, and emceeing at virtual meetings. And so for those who speak at virtual meetings, like Diane, one of our guests, here's my #1 tip for speakers. That's correct. Yes, the tip is stand up. It's 22 months of the pandemic, and actually some of the top speakers in the world have still forgotten that you really need to find ways to stand up. Now, you could do this fancy way, or you can actually buy a lifter desk now. I actually found one, I'm using one now that's like $300. And the other part is you can actually just stick boxes, but all the key here is to just get the camera to eye level. And if you stand up during the majority of your presentation, people will actually perceive you differently. So what I want to do in the beginning of this morning is that there are 6 things that I want to teach you. This is a 6-step method that I've used and tested it in conferences as big as 1,200 and found that this 6 things will help your meetings be more engaging. So every time you do one of them, the odds of your meeting being perceived as being engaging go up. So the first tip is this. Every letter stands for something. And again, every time you do one of the letters, it will help your meeting be perceived as engaging. The first one is this: E, engage and interact with every attendee. So again, one of the things you should do is have a plan to engage and interact with every attendee before the end of the meeting. So there are things that we can do with like this, which is that we can actually talk to people. Elizabeth is with us. I see that Diane is with us today. Or you can, through chat or poll or anything else like that, there are all the different ways that you can engage and interact with every attendee. So if you want engagement, then engage. So the second one is this. The problem is the overwhelmed hosts. So if you have ever hosted a meeting, you probably know or might feel like some of these people here who are just a little frustrated or overwhelmed. And even I am, after 35 years, there's so many different things that you have to do online. So I have a friend, she actually started running a Zoom meeting in March of 2020. And here are all the different things that she had to do. She had to write the marketing, write the registration, set up her Zoom room, ran her own security. She kept track of engaging with every person. She recorded and streamed the Facebook Live. She showed her own slide deck, chatted with attendees while presenting. She set out and ran the breakout room. She shared the video and the chat logs after the meeting. And she felt exhausted at the end of that. And so the real key to that is this one here. N is never lead a meeting alone. Today, I have my friend Elizabeth here with me today. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Glad to be
Fantastic.
here.
Fantastic. Thanks for being my producer today. Where, sorry, which beach are you at, or which ocean front are you at?
This is my yard. Isn't it beautiful?
That's your front yard?
It is right now.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. Okay, and tell me some of the things. Elizabeth, you've been a producer for other meetings. What are some of the most interesting meetings? What might be one of the most interesting meetings that you produced?
Oh, wow. I think they're all interesting in their own respect. I definitely think it's interesting to try and look at all the different backgrounds and know where everybody's from and look at all the different hints and tips that you are amazing at giving. And they've helped a lot of people.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Elizabeth was with me at Training Magazine's conference where there were over 1,200 people at that conference too. You know, one of the keys here is that, you know, if you've ever been caught on mute, first off, let me tell you, I've been on for 35 years and I still get caught on mute. So the number one thing I just really want to tell you is it's not your fault. Right? It's not your fault. That's fine. And so the second one is that because there's so much to do. So if you're a speaker, and again, especially if you're not great at technology, this is the easiest thing to do is give half of your roles to the producer. They can admit, they can chat, right? They can watch the log, they can do Q&A, they can silence the room. So many things so that you as the speaker can stay focused on the audience, just like this. So yeah, never lead a meeting alone. Like my good friend Gil says, if you're only on Zoom, never Zoom alone. All right, so the next challenge that we have is bad backgrounds. So you've probably seen quite a few of these, maybe videos online, like I'm too close to my camera, I froze, so my internet's bad, I have too much headroom, camera angles, and of course, my good friend, I really don't know how to use a green screen. So, so with those bad backgrounds, here's our key solution for that. The solution that we have here is good looks. So look good online, right? Get the best camera that you can, make sure the camera angle is correct, and then look through what's in your background, and all of these things all add up. In fact, actually, there's some research I got on the neuroscience of selling virtually that says if people can't see your hands, they'll trust you less. Wow. And so here are the other things that you can do when you arrange your background. First, arrange them, you know, for you, and then put some items that are interesting here that people might learn something about you without saying anything at all. So this is an award. This is actually a US patent I got from Microsoft. This is my book. It says I wrote a book. And this over here is a picture of me skydiving. So it's a tandem skydive. And you might then learn or surmise that I am adventurous. And I like those kind of things. So that's what G here stands for, is good looks. We got a chance to have a friend who does Zoom makeovers professionally come with us, and she has a whole host. There's so many different tips about ways to look good here on virtual. And it does matter because in this case, I have a great story about a person. He was interviewing for a job and he found out, he went on LinkedIn and found out that his boss was she was a Lakers fan. So he changed his background to this before he logged on. When the interviewer logged on, she stopped for a second and then she goes, "You got me." And so they end up talking about Lakers for 5 minutes. And the interviewee said, "Oh, she really warmed up after that." And so the good news at the end of it is that he got the job. And so this is where, again, your background, it didn't really have to say anything, but by taking the time and energy to work on your background, whether it's natural or it's virtual, can really have a difference. Okay, the next challenge that we have is people talking over each other. So until Zoom and the technology gets better, what happens is that we will not be able to understand when two or more people are talking together. I actually got to go to a face-to-face meeting recently, and like that's the proximity that you get live, where you can whisper to somebody while a main speaker is going on. But that doesn't work here on Zoom, because even if you're whispering or trying to talk to somebody on the side, everybody hears you as loud as the keynote speaker. So the real key about trying to prevent people from talking over each other is that the A in Engage stands for air traffic control. Right, this is actually a video of 5,000 flights in the peak of United States air traffic, and they all fly through the air and then none of them hit each other. Why? Because they have air traffic control. Think about your audio channel on your program as exactly the same way, and you too can find a way to not have your audio collide onside your video. All right, the next one, of course, is a problem can't work online. So I had even 7 PhDs at the beginning of the pandemic, tried to solve a problem for students, and they were unable to solve it in an hour. And I think they felt a little bit like this guy. So the problem is can't work online. So the solution for this, especially now, as we get 22, 23 months into the pandemic, is that the G in Engage says, get productive with virtual tools. Learn all the different tools in your platform. A lot of people get to Zoom and like, get over the hump of at least just getting there. But now there's all these different tools. And especially now, if your group is comfortable with meeting, look for the next things that you can introduce to engage them even more, such as these tools. These are like polls, reactions, whiteboards, and then there's a huge assortment of tools outside of that. So those can also work too. The last one here is Zoom fatigue. So in Zoom fatigue, again, one is that there's research that comes around here and says it's real. So I look for, a lot of times I'll ask, what's the maximum number of hours that you've been on in a day? And quite often I get answers around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My answer used to be 16 hours in a day. But my latest is I actually ran a 25.5-hour Zoom meeting that was actually trying to attempt a world record for somebody's birthday. So again, Zoom fatigue is real. And in one meeting early on, I had a 2-hour meeting on a different platform. What happened was that I came after the meeting, I was exhausted, and I came to my bedroom and I did this. And so when I woke up the next day, I really asked myself, why does that happen? And so I started looking at all the different research. And so here are the 3 key things that I found out of the research. Number 1 is you don't have the muscle for it. Again, in March of 2020, if you tried to do an 8-hour meeting and you had never met online, you're going to be wiped out. It's basically like if you've never worked out and you try to go to CrossFit, right, it's going to hurt. So the second one is this, is that, when a keynote speaker gets to the perfect right point and then, yeah, well, when first I'm messing with you. And the second one is this, if you have technical problems, right, that's the second cause of Zoom fatigue. So when someone's audio or video breaks up, right, you have to reach or use more energy to try to get people to understand you. And so that causes fatigue. And the third one is when your speakers are not engaging, if they talk a little bit like this, then, right, that's just going to cause fatigue and cause you to pass out like that. So the solution that we have for that is end on a high note. This actually came from product market research in a 60-minute demo. If you had a product and you could architect a high note with a product in the last 5 minutes, people were more likely to buy. And we like to say your virtual meeting is exactly the same way. So look for different ways that you can end on a high note. You can ask people to reflect, like what's the best thing, right? You can actually have people write on signs, hold them up. There are multiple different ways to get people to end on a high note. You can show a short video that's inspirational, lots of different ideas for that. But the key here is look for something in those last 3 minutes of your meeting to end on a high note. People will most likely come back to your meeting excited, ready, prepared, maybe cameras on and ready for your meeting. All right, so we're going to show a couple demonstrations here of air traffic control, and then we're also going to get a chance to meet a few people here online. And actually today, what we're going to do is for those who are on the live stream, just click the meeting and you can come join us here inside of Zoom. So I'm going to run a 30-second video and I'll talk with the people here in Zoom. We'll see you next time.
Always start people and keep people, show you got heart.